Hello, thank you, Megan, for participating in my presentation today. I'll be talking about, as I'm sure you're well aware, cross-curricular education and the Common Core. And specifically, I'm going to address our expectations from our schools in terms of what they want from us and what I have been giving my school in terms of incorporating other standards into my class, other English, most specifically English and mathematics standards, but mostly English standards into my classroom. Um, I teach woodworking, teach junior high school woodworking, and there has been ridiculously little input from anybody in my district or my school or anybody as far as what it is I should be teaching my junior high school woodworking students. When looking at the standards that come down from the state, they're very broad. They go all the way from 6th grade all the way to 12th grade, and there's a lot of them for me to cover any time within that 6 years of education. I have chosen to push myself and my class and my students much further than and in much more advanced manner than I think anybody out there in junior high school is doing. And I have found myself successful. It was a bit of an experiment at the beginning as far as what I could expect of my students, but I find that they are much more capable, and so I've been pushing much further in terms of what it is I do with my classroom. But that has been pretty much my choice. As far as I can tell, they very much would, the administration would have been happy with whatever it is I chose to do. So I have been pushing my students over the years in terms of their woodworking skills and what I wanted from them to gain out of their woodworking skills. But up until a couple years ago, I didn't really have any idea to try to incorporate any other types of specific class or standards from other curriculums into my classroom until a couple years ago when the Common Core came in, and my school asked me to incorporate mathematics standards and English standards. At that time, the English department was working on something specifically called the hamburger method of writing essays, and they wanted the entire school to use this format to create essays and have the students follow a specific format involving colored pens and specific content and specific locations in the essay. And so I chose that as an opportunity to incorporate that into my classroom, and it has been a huge success in terms of something that it didn't even occur to me that I really needed to accomplish in my class. I have been accomplishing quite a bit over the last couple of years. I had students prior to a couple of years ago. I really felt that my students were not really evaluating their own work. They were creating objects, and then they would turn in their objects, and they would have no idea what grade they were going to be getting on that object. Students would turn in work that was really poor and was clearly going to be getting a poor grade, and yet they walked up with confidence and thought they were going to be getting A's or B's in the class. And quite the opposite, I would have students who would turn in really fantastic work and would think that they were going to get a failing grade on that assignment. And so I took the opportunity of the school asking me to incorporate essays and writing and English standards and language standards into my classroom as an opportunity to try to correct the situation, and I find that it has been an enormous success. My students are right now using a very clearly defined rubric to grade their own work, and then they write essays explaining to me why they deserve the grades that they deserve. So using English language arts standards in my classroom, specifically regarding writing. The writing 1 standard for 7th grade is to write arguments to support claims with clear reasons and relevant evidence, and that goes right into this project that I have the students do, writing these essays in class to explain why they deserve the grades that they do. The writing 2 standards involves writing informative or explanatory texts, and these are things that I can certainly incorporate in my class, and I have been. And I find that my students are right on in terms of being able to grade their own work and understanding what it is that they have done and what they haven't done, and that has been useful in my classroom. I find it difficult to incorporate mathematics standards into my class because they seem to be very specific about what they want to learn, and I thought through this process of doing this particular assignment, it occurred to me that maybe it would be good for me to go to a 7th grade, because most of my students are 7th graders. I do have some 8th graders, but most of them are 7th graders. Go speak to a 7th grade math class and talk to him or her about what it is I'm doing in my classroom, and ask them, what is it you would like me to incorporate into my class, and how do you see that being useful? And I can try to figure out a way to support the math teachers in things that they think their students could use more practice with, and try to figure out, ask them, which standard do you want me to work on, and and explain to them what it is I'm doing, and see if they can find a way to fit it into my classroom, rather than for me to dig through their standards and pick out standards that I think I would like to focus on. Find one that I think that they think the 7th graders could use some extra practice on. The concept of working cross-curricularly with the standards, I find really quite interesting and exciting. I think it's a great idea. I like the idea that they're learning about something in their English classes, and then they don't just walk out of that classroom and forget about it until the next time they walk into their English classroom. That they are learning a specific standard in their English class, and then they find that standard being useful in their other classes. It also helps them to recognize that the things that they're learning in one class are applicable to the rest of their life. They're not just applicable to that moment, and passing that test in that English class, or that history class, or that English or the math class, but it's something that they can use for in other situations. It makes them a little bit more respectful of the information they're getting on a regular basis, that they actually have to use it for other classes and such. On my campus, we are definitely working within departments with different departments. We meet together in our staff development meetings, and we talk about different things that we want other teachers to incorporate into their classes. And we have best practices where we discuss that as a school, in terms of what it is that how we're accomplishing those standards, and how, so that an English teacher can talk about how they're teaching a specific standard, so that other teachers around the school can take that information and potentially use that to help teach the same standard within their classes as well. And I think that's where I'm going to end my presentation today. Thank you very much.